So, we just finished Civil Core, a storyline that sprinted towards its conclusion despite being stuffed with more characters and plotlines than it knew what to do with. If you ask me, what the series needs right now is an opportunity to slow down and unpack at least some of the many, many questions and new concepts that have been piling up since this run first got started. That's what I think they should do. Now let's talk about what they decided to do instead. Green Lantern Shattered God, I want so badly to call this Shattered Grid, that awesome Power Rangers event from back in 2018. Green Lantern Fractured Spectrum #1 is written by Jeremy Adams with art by V. Ken Marion, colors by Romulo Fajardo Jr., and letters by Dave Sharp. The title of this issue is, well, Fractured Spectrum. Hal Jordan is sitting on an asteroid eating a sandwich in the first moment of peace that he, and this series in general, have experienced in ages. Hal is flying through space, loving life, generally happy with how everything turned out. He and Carol are on good terms, and she officially joined the Justice League, which we will be talking about eventually once a few more issues of Justice League Unlimited come out. But the big thing is that by defeating Tharos and depowering all of his followers, the Green Lantern Corps is no longer at the mercy of the corruption at the heart of the United Planets. There's a passing mention of the United Planets being quote-unquote in shambles, which makes sense considering that its entire corrupt leadership structure was taken away. I'm not sure if that means the United Planets aren't in charge of the Green Lantern Corps anymore. I mean, probably, since the UP only took over once the Guardians vanished, and now the Guardians are back. Although they claim to be different Guardians from the ones we had before, and they're each wearing the colors and symbols of different Lantern Corps. And do you see what my main problem is yet? There is so much being shoved in here, and none of it is being given any attention or explanation. Like, hey, guess what? Razor is a Green Lantern now. But you'd never know that unless you noticed him in these 2 panels that do a really poor job of showing him off. I guess that probably means Razor did get to keep one of those new rings after all? And that's another thing. As of last issue, there were exactly 6 new Green Lantern rings that drew power from the central battery on Earth. Every other Green Lantern Corps ring in the universe drew power from the Source Lantern, which doesn't exist anymore, so those rings should all be useless once their charges run out. And we were specifically told that the mechanism on Earth can make more rings, but it would be a slow process that seemingly only produces 6 rings at a time. So why is it that this issue shows us dozens, if not hundreds, of Green Lanterns with working rings? Maybe most of them are still using the old rings that haven't run out of power yet. Or maybe the Guardians were able to just mass produce new rings again. Either way, the fact that there are so many Green Lanterns right now seems like a waste of a good premise. It really looked like we were going to see the Green Lantern Corps rebuilt slowly, a few characters at a time, starting with the Lanterns from Earth. And that's another thing! Remember that cool new underground cavern on Earth where the new central battery was hidden away, protected by Jadestone? And it looked like the Green Lantern Corps was going to have a new base of operations going forward? Turns out, no, they just picked up the central battery and flew it to Oa, where all of the damage done to the planet at the end of Civil Core is just magically all better now. Oa had been reduced to a post-apocalyptic wasteland last issue, and now everything's fine. Listen, if you've watched my videos before, you know that I'm usually pretty positive, and I tend to give the benefit of the doubt. But everything about this feels like a complete waste of interesting ideas that never even got to be explored. This run has made some big changes to the way the Green Lantern Corps works, but those changes only matter if they stick around and have consequences. Instead, just about everything went right back to the old status quo incredibly fast, and I'm left feeling disappointed. It's the same old thing when I thought we were getting something new and interesting. Ellie Rose and Kelly are working together to integrate the central battery into Oa's infrastructure. I like them together. I think making them friends will be good for both of their characters in the long run. Although they're leaning even harder on the idea of Kelly being some kind of tech genius, which doesn't make sense with her backstory as it was presented to us via flashbacks in Young Justice number 9. But whatever, I guess. It's certainly not the only case of someone acting out of character in this issue. Jessica is presiding over a gathering of Green Lanterns, and it feels weird. She's dressed up in formal robes, and the whole thing has the vibe of a pastor giving a sermon to their congregation. On top of that, none of this dialogue sounds like Jessica Cruz. Her personality, her way of speaking, none of it is here. You could swap her out for literally anyone else, any random generic Green Lantern, without changing a single word of dialogue, and there would be no difference. Though credit where it's due, I like the fact that Hal acknowledges that when it comes to overcoming fear, Jessica is in a class of her own. Staying on the topic of characters not acting like themselves, Guy Gardner has apparently been spending his free time doing hours upon hours of research in a library. We're told that he's been researching the Book of Oa ever since it came out that the Guardians had been rewriting parts of it, so Guy wanted to find out exactly how much of the book had been changed over the years. And I could be wrong about this, but off the top of my head, I think the first time we saw the Guardians change the Book of Oa was when they started writing their new laws towards the end of the Sinestro Corps War storyline. And at some point we learned that the pages containing the Blackest Night prophecy were suppressed, hidden away to cover up a truth that the Guardians found to be inconvenient. So Guy has been doing research for a really long time, which is why he secretly swapped out the Book of Oa for a fake and hid the real one in his closet on Earth, as we saw in the later issues of the series Green Lantern War Journal. And he finally made a major breakthrough thanks to an artifact called the Eye of Crona. Remember that? Guy found it during those backup stories where he was trying to arrest Lobo during the House of Brainiac storyline. Apparently, if you look at the Book of Oa through the Eye of Crona, it reveals that there are actually 6 other versions of the Book of Oa hidden within the version we're familiar with, each bearing the color and symbol of a different power of the emotional spectrum. I have no idea how any of that works or what it means, and conveniently neither do the latest batch of Guardians. And it'll be hard to figure out since Nathan Broom, the Sorrow Lantern, stole the Book of Oa from Guy Gardner. Guy thinks Nathan wants the Book of Oa so he can learn how to build his own central battery. And I don't understand why or how Guy would ever come to that conclusion. The Book of Oa contains billions of years worth of information about the entire universe. And we just learned that might actually only be 1/7 of the information that's actually written in there. But somehow, Guy is sure that Nate is after this one specific thing? Why? I guess we're just supposed to take Guy's word for it since he spent so much time studying the book, but there's no way he even came close to scratching the surface of what all is written in there. But we just gotta accept it, since this ties directly into the new mission statement of the series going forward. Basically, the power of sorrow was never supposed to exist in this form. It's an anomaly that only exists because Tharos kept messing with the emotional spectrum. Nathan's power represents a crack in the emotional spectrum. If Nathan succeeds at building a central battery filled with sorrow energy, that small crack will grow exponentially, rupturing the emotional spectrum, some might say fracturing the spectrum, which is really bad because every living thing in the universe is tied to the emotional spectrum, so the fallout could be unimaginably catastrophic. Since they're somehow sure that Nathan is going to try building a central battery, all the Green Lanterns have to do is find the resources needed to make one and then get there before Nathan does. And honestly, this seems like a situation they can handle pretty easily. There are tons of Green Lanterns and only one Sorrow Lantern, so it shouldn't be hard to cover most, if not all, of the resources Nathan needs before he can find them. It also doesn't seem like it should be much of a problem when it comes time to fight Nathan. Because again, he's extremely outnumbered, and his confrontation with Carol back in Green Lantern number 15 already showed us that a single lantern with the right frame of mind can overcome the power of sorrow. Maybe not just anyone can do it. We've seen both Guy Gardner and Dove succumb to the infectious power of sorrow very easily. I don't know. It's this awkward situation where I understand how bad it'll be if the antagonist succeeds, but I also can't imagine how or why he ever could, since he only has one ally that we know of, and they're up against a literal army. So, yeah, the cover calls this issue the beginning of the next Green Lantern epic, and I'm not really feeling any tension or danger or excitement. Don't get me wrong, I'm still going to read it and talk about it, and I hope it's good. But this issue wasn't. We're going to see where this goes in the next issue of Green Lantern, number 19. And in the first issue of the new Green Lantern Corps ongoing series. That's right, it's been a long time coming, and now we're finally going to have a second ongoing Lantern book set in the main DC universe. And actually, there's a lot of new Green Lantern books all of a sudden, so let me go over them quickly just to make sure we're all on the same page here. As I record this, it's the middle of January. Green Lantern number 19 is supposed to come out by the end of the month. Then in February, we're getting Green Lantern Corps number 1, Green Lantern number 20, and Green Lantern Dark number 3. Remember, Green Lantern Dark comes out every 2 months. Then in March, in addition to the next issues of Green Lantern and Green Lantern Corps, there's also Absolute Green Lantern number 1. And just so we're clear, the only Lantern books that take place in the main DC universe are Green Lantern and Green Lantern Corps. Green Lantern Dark takes place in the Tangent universe, and Absolute Green Lantern takes place in the Absolute universe. Both of those are universes that exist within the DC multiverse, so they could always cross over with the main DC universe at some point, but for now they're staying separate with each doing their own thing. So those are my thoughts on the Green Lantern Shattered Grid one-shot, or whatever it's called. Now I want to hear from you. Did you like this issue? Are you excited about this storyline? Are you looking forward to the new Green Lantern Corps series? Tell me all about it in the comments section down below, and subscribe if you haven't already, because as you just saw, there's about to be a lot of new Green Lantern comics to talk about. Until then, thank you for taking the time to watch. My name is Dan. We'll talk again soon.